everyone, welcome to the first Veloce Race review. I'm here with Pat Brown.
And I'm here with Aaron McNanny, and we're going to take you through the Ambler Category 4 Criterium.
So this took place about 2 or 3 weeks ago. This was a Cat 4-5 race.
Yep, so the video that you're seeing is actually from my bike. All the power and the stats that you're seeing are from my bike as well. So you can actually see, what kind of power we're putting out, what kind of speeds we're taking through the corners, and also how much I suffered with my heart rate there.
And then that's me right up there on the right.
And so the blue, white, and red kit.
This was an interesting race for both of us. We Pat ended up walking away with 2nd place. I ended up walking away with 7th place, and I got a preem, and I crashed.
Yeah, and you can see, so the guy right in front of Aaron in the corner coming up here, he went down, and I do have that guy going down on camera. However, I don't have the whole crash since it basically happened right next to me. But once that comes about in the video, then we'll start talking about that.
Yeah, so we're gonna cherry pick some interesting spots in this race to kind of talk about. Just a couple of talking points. We're not going to take up too much time. So the first thing you'll notice is off the gun, we were in good position. We tried to get up to the front as quickly as possible. So this is a relatively large race. I think there were probably, let's just call it 40. Let's just call it 40 or 50 people that started. Not that many people finished, of course, but very quickly we wanted to get up to the front. And the main reason with that is, especially in a 4-5 race, you don't want to be behind wheels that maybe are less comfortable going through the corners and whatnot. And there's a lot of surging. So even here, you see me pedaling through that corner there.
Yeah, look at the power. I just went over 1,000 watts coming out of that corner.
So where a lot of guys are going to be coasting through corners, you want to be pedaling as much as possible. Rather than scrubbing speed, you're maintaining speed. And if you're behind people that are scrubbing speed, then you're stuck behind them. If you're in the front, then you can determine how fast you're going. So
yeah, you'll see I kind of like to sit, depending on the size of the field, usually around 5th or 6th position. You'll see constantly throughout the race I'll be kind of moving up and moving back and moving up and moving back, depending on really what time, what's going on in the race, where maybe my teammate is. And also how I'm feeling. If I'm suffering, it was a hot day. I think that's also why the heart rate really got up today. This is actually, I got a max heart rate today of 206 beats per minute. You'll see that at the end. That's so it definitely wasn't an easy race.
So
here.
Typically they'll say take your age and subtract that from 220. Mm-hmm. So I'm 29. So if you subtract 29, actually my max heart rate is 191.
Oh yeah.
So that's actually right on.
Yeah.
I experienced 191 this year. So.
But for a lot of people, that
isn't true.
It's not true because it's not based on biological
You can have
factors.
a low max heart rate and be super efficient and fast, or you could have a high max heart rate and not be very strong. So.
Yeah, I mean
this guy in the white, he's a strong rider right there.
Yeah, for sure. He's someone to look out for. And also the guy on my left in the black and yellow there in the PT kit, he actually, I believe he got 3rd. Mm-hmm. So there are definitely some strong riders here. So you can see there.
Is that Calvin right there? So that's Calvin who won the race.
Yes. So keep an eye on there's 2 black kits that did well. You see here, I wasn't pedaling and I'm passing people, or I'm barely pedaling and passing people. Whenever you can, try to stay off the brakes and just move up the side. I always try to stay on the side of people, either on the outside or the inside. So, if people stop pedaling, I'll stop pedaling and I'll try to roll my momentum up through and gain some positions. It's really, at this point, it's saving as much energy as you can.
So Andy Coggins in Racing and Training with Power, Training and Racing with Power, he'll say that the target is 30 to 35% that you want to be not pedaling or putting out any power during a race. So, if you've got an hour-long race, at the end of the day, if you pull all of your cadence data, you should be able to see that 35% of the time you were not pedaling. Now, sometimes you may be slow pedaling, so a pro tip for figuring out what that number really is if you can see a power distribution, and then you drop everything that's like sub 100 watts, that's going to show you, like, so all the time that you're sub 100 watts, that should be at least 30% of your race. So 30% of the time.
So we can see here my watts are up above, right around 350. I'm on the front, and now if I'm back a few wheels, it's going to be significantly less. So if you're a sprinter, or if you're maybe even just new to racing, it's kind of good to stay behind some wheels because you'll be staying out of the wind and saving some energy here.
So right here, actually, you're going 27, which is pretty fast. So you're putting on, it is a little bit downhill. So you're keeping the pace high, which is preventing people who are maybe a little bit slower from, one way of putting it is from unjustly being at a spot in the peloton where they really shouldn't, they don't belong and they shouldn't be there. And that just has to do with like fitness and, quite frankly, safety.
Yeah. Now, especially going into corners, we see we have a right-hand bend here. So what I'm doing in preparation for that corner, I would say maybe 5-6 seconds before we actually start turning, is you want to look, so for a right-hand turn, you want to look over your right shoulder to see if anyone's coming up on your inside, because a lot of inexperienced riders will see, okay, everyone's slowing down, yeah, we're going into a turn, but I can make up some positions here, when actually that's not what you want to do. You want to, keep off your pedals and kind of maintain where you are on
head
the
on a
bunch.
swivel. And also, by looking around, you communicate to the riders around you what you're doing. Sometimes you don't want to take a hand off to say, like, sometimes you want to take a hand off, but a lot of times you don't want to take a hand off to show that you're, maybe going to go over in one direction. By just looking, you can signal sort of like, hey, I'm interested in that zone right there.
Yeah, and that can prevent crashes, because the one thing you want to do in racing is to be as predictable as you can. It's just like when you're driving a car, you don't want someone who's doing all these weird things driving all over the road because it's not safe and it's uncomfortable. And it's the same thing on the bike. So if you're communicating with other riders saying, hey, I'm inside, I'm coming up inside, going around a turn, or if you're on the edge of a road and you'll say, oh, I'm on your left, don't squeeze me off the road, then that makes it a lot safer. For sure. So we see Aaron right in front of me right now, and you see we're not doing any power right now, not even pedaling. And I'm getting back up, accelerating out of the corner.
You can do it very well by just being an efficient racer and efficient rider. And part of it does come with just being out there and racing, being able to sort of sense when someone is going to be attacking or when there's a little bit of a lull. You also, like, when you first get out there, it's really easy to be mesmerized by the wheel in front of you. After spending some time out there racing, you start noticing when the guy 5 wheels ahead of you is starting to increase his speed and put out some power, and you can react to that before the guy in front of you even does.
Yeah, so you can see I'm on kind of like the left side of the group, and even though I'm not sheltered behind wheels very much right now, but I'm still, I'm able to kind of lean my head off to the side to look around to see what's going on, if there's any potholes, if there's anyone slow that we're the group's taking back up.
So you can see we're responding to an attack right now. Someone went off the front, and you can see we're maybe a couple seconds back. You want to minimize the amount of energy that you put out chasing down an attack, and a lot of times if you can see that one guy next to you is going to be following, get behind his wheel. Don't do him a favor and chase down the attack and let him get on your wheel. Just get on his wheel, especially if you can tell that he's motivated and he's going to do it. So I think that attack sort of petered out here. So this is that upward climb, so people are going to start chilling out, and that's why we're slow pedaling up a hill right now.
Yeah, and everyone at the front is a little bit tired right now because they just surged to try to catch the guy who is trying to create a breakaway. But it's important now, you can see some guys are coming up on my left, is you don't want to get swarmed by all the fresh guys who just got a huge draft from that. So you do want to just be cognizant of where people are coming up. So about right now, I check my right, see if anyone's coming. Okay, I'm clear, so I can take the inside line. And then you're fine to come out of the corner. It's always looking and to see who's around you and whether you can make a move off to the left or off to the right. you can see like we're not swerving all over the road. We're basically picking a lane and going straight down it. Alrighty, so we're gonna be going in. This is a nice long straightaway. It's a little bit downhill and it rises up a little bit right before the next right-hand turn. And you'll see off to the left, there's my teammate there, Aaron. He's actually going to get caught behind someone crashing.
Before you're going into it, I'll explain what happens. He ends up overcooking it a little bit, grabs a handful of the right brake, and starts slipping out his rear tire, so he's about to low side. So to correct it, he overcompensates, and then eventually, I believe he high sides.
Yeah.
So by pulling in too much to overcorrect it, he ends up going over his handlebars. And my attempt was to go around him, but I ran into the curb.
So you'll see it. It's this the guy in the red and black on the left, handbrake. Yeah.
So that's what happened right there. So just to explain what happens in a crash. So I went down. So I'm entitled to a free lap in most scenarios, and you have to check with the officials for that race. But obviously it was not my fault. I ended up getting pretty scraped up. Still have a little bit of damage on my skin from that. But I basically made an effort to get up to the neutral zone as quickly as possible. And at that point, I took care of my bleeding, grabbed a swig of water, and got into a track stand as soon as, a lot of times someone will hold you, but I got into a track stand and waited for the peloton to come by me. And I just chased right back on as if nothing happened. Free lap. And that's if you get a flat, if you have a mechanical. Sometimes they'll be specific about what kind of mechanical it is.
Usually it'll only be after you crash and you have a mechanical issue because your bike hit the floor. If you have a mechanical because you didn't really take care of your bike before the race, then they usually won't give you a free lap there. So
here we are on the home stretch where I'm going to be chasing on and rejoining them. Right up here on the right is a tent, and you'll see a group of guys. And where are we? Yeah. There I am over on the right there, chasing back on behind that junior right there.
Yeah.
And then just like that, I'm back with the group.
Yeah. And now you'll see, if you look back at the video, you'll see that right after the crash, as we exit the turn, that actually the group in front will start to accelerate. And that'll naturally happen because people start thinking, they're in race mode, okay, someone went down, that might be what separates, a select group of guys from the peloton to create a solid breakaway, because people will get stuck behind crashes and they'll have to slow down. Yeah. So,
and by all means, take advantage of that. I mean, that's not that you're taking advantage of someone's poor luck, but you're just taking advantage of what happened. If there's a split, there's a split. So which also brings up the point: if a crash happens, don't look at it. Mm-hmm. Like literally, the rule of thumb is keep your eyes on the road. Don't look. Definitely don't look back, even if it's next to you. Eyes on the road. And use your peripheral to kind of like navigate around it. I mean, don't make any sudden movements. You may create a secondary crash just by trying to, steer away from it. So at this point, my hand was pretty well, my wrist was pretty well jacked up, and I was bleeding a little bit, but the legs were still feeling fine. I ended up cartwheeling onto like half of the sidewalk and half of the grassy area.
And there's like a little curb there too. And you see, I was right up next to him before. If you have a teammate, or even if you just see someone re-enter the race, have a chat with them, see how they're doing, because.
And something I want to say: this is a Cat 4-5 race, so it's like not high stakes. For those of you who are concerned about the safety of crashing, by the way, the guy that did crash, he was fine. No broken bones. I think he got a little bit of a bruised shoulder or something, but he was fine.
Yeah, he's
got
a little bit scraped up, but that's what pavement does.
The thing is, like, look, I'm racing. I'm right back on my bike. I fell off. Just because you're on the road and racing at 20, 21 miles an hour right here, 25 miles an hour average speeds, it doesn't mean that when you go down, you're going to really hurt yourself. I mean, you want to stay safe. You want to take as many necessary precautions as you can, but the fear of hurting yourself should not be enough to deter you from like how fun this race is. I mean, this is a
Yeah,
fun race.
for
We
sure.
did not intend for this video to be this long, but it's just there's enough to talk about in this race because it's that interesting of a race.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are in the last lap. So Pat, you're at about wheel 6, which is really good position.
Yeah.
I think I'm on wheel 3. So what happened in this race was I think we were trying to get into a breakaway, but nothing was going to stick. So at this point you can tell, your heart rate is still a little bit high, but we're not pushing the power right now. People are realizing that there's not going to be a break. It's going to be a group sprint.
Yeah.
So conserve energy. People are trying to keep the pace high because they don't want to be swarmed and overtaken by the people in their back.
And
But
you'll see that'll actually happen coming up here soon.
a lot of times there'll be disorganization because nobody wants to work on the front because they
Yeah.
want to conserve their energy.
So what I'm doing basically up this hole, there's a right-hand turn. So what I'm doing right now is I'm looking to my right to see, okay, is anyone there or is anyone swarming us?
And you can see there are. That guy on the outside right there, he just came up around.
Yeah.
And it'll happen. It's fine. A lot of the sprinters, they've been hanging out in the back all day, and they're like, okay, now's my time to shine. So they put out that extra power. I want to say that as I've matured as a racer and as a cyclist, it's all about the 2 and 3 laps, the 1, 2, and 3 laps before the finish lap.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're at going into those final corners is so much more important than what your 5, 10, 20 second power output is on that final 200, 300 meter stretch.
So you can see what we're sitting 5th wheel or so right here, and I'm thinking, okay, this is good. We're gonna catch that guy in front of us. But then you see I'm kind of boxed in, and I see that, and so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try to
not a good
slide
place
over
to
to
be.
the right. And then I see, oh, there's a guy right on my right. So I was like, okay, this is gonna be a little bit sketchy. So I come in, and at this point, you just need to find a lane and put out as much power as you can.
So you have good power here because honestly, you could have been in better position around that corner, and
Yeah.
yet you still walked away with second.
With the bike throw.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
So that was the race. I
Yeah.
mean, it was for us. It was really interesting. A lot of tactical stuff going on. A lot of breakaways that we're trying to get
yeah,
solidified, but didn't.
206.
That's very high heart rate. So I managed to survive a crash. I walked away with some sweet gear from my Preem,
Yeah.
and then you walked away with $100.
Yeah, $100 for second place. First place got 200, so you can definitely win some money here racing once you get into Cat 4 and
Yeah.
and higher.
So that was episode 1 of the Veloce Race review. Hope you enjoyed it. If you think that anything would be interesting going forward, or you found something to be not very interesting, let us know. Also, we're very sensitive about how long these go. The races themselves are maybe 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
So we obviously don't want to be talking for 45 minutes an hour, and we know you don't want to listen for 45 minutes to an hour.
If you do, let us know.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for sticking it out with us.